The night has come, it's cold and losing my control. Your light is gone, and lonely darkness fill my soul. I wish that you could save me from my isolation. It's way too complicated. Let's stop this conversation. Let's stop this conversation. We got no relation.
Good evening, and if you're just tuning in, you are listening to or watching live UFO Paranormal and United Public Radio Network. This is Angel Rock, and I'm your host, Lorilei Potvin. I see everybody piling in and glad to have you all here. A little bit about myself. I'm a Canadian psychic medium, crystal Reiki energy healer, Akashic Records practitioner. I'm a spiritual teacher and mentor. I'm also a registered nurse. I'm well versed in near-death experiences, having had one as a toddler myself and studied them professionally and personally for over 40 years. I'm an animal communicator, and I'm also extremely well versed in the paranormal. I always say I didn't go looking for it, it found me. And you can find our story. We've shared it on the Travel Channel on Paranormal Survivor, Season 4, Episode 9, called Demonic Hauntings. And you can find all over the places on YouTube. I think it's on Netflix, and you're going to see a familiar face on there. Not just mine, but somebody I didn't know at the time that was a consultant for the show. And she's our own Michelle DeRoche, who has Beyond the Outer Realm, which I'm going to be on next Tuesday from 2 to 3:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on Tuesdays. She also has her show, the wildly popular Outer Realm, on Wednesdays and Thursday evenings here at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And like I said, I didn't know her, but I know her very well now. She's also a station manager. I'm also the host of a second show on the network here, I should say co-host, with my very close friend and fellow UPRN host, Carrie Lynn Shellhorn. And she has her own show called Spirit Switchboard on Friday, 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And you guys, are you ready for this? We are having our network UPRN Halloween party on Friday, which I will be co-hosting with Carrie Lynn on her show spot, 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, where all the hosts will pop in. Carrie Lynn's got all kinds of fun stuff planned for it. Jeffrey Pritchett is actually giving up his time slot after at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time with Church of Mavis. So it's going to be a lot of fun. So I hope you guys will all join us. The parties are always fun. It's usually me that books it, does the parties, but Carrie Lynn, she decided since it was Halloween to do it in her show spot. I'd also like to thank Carnation. They're responsible for all the programming here on Mondays. It's called Carnation Mondays, and we thank them most deeply for their generosity. So Carnation is a global brand. So if you're listening and you're out shopping and you run into something with Carnation, please choose them, because they bring all the great shows that are here on Mondays here on the network. And speaking of shows, we stream several shows live 7 days a week on this network. And when we're not streaming live, the archive server kicks into the last 25 plus years this network's been around. So we really are live all the time. We do have a website, which is www.uprntalkradio.com. It is getting revamped. I know there was quite a bit of discussion on Thursday's show when we mentioned this. There is a chat room coming, we hear, and a potential merchandise store. And the chat room, as I understand, there's not going to be a cost for it. You guys were worried about this, but this network does broadcast to every country in the world. And for the last 20, or I should say 80 to 85% of the audience is audio only. So if you're listening to us and you're thinking, how can I join the conversation? That will be one way with the new website. But I always say you need to see us to join the conversation. So if you're listening and you want to join in, I'm going to rattle this off really quickly. You can join us on Facebook under my Facebook profile, Lorilei Potvin, on LinkedIn on the same name. I'm also on my YouTube channel, which is the Angel Rock with Lorilei Potvin, and we are on Instagram under the Angel Rock. So you can also find us there. You can find us on Facebook with UFO Paranormal United Public Radio Network. Also on our YouTube channel, we're on the main one, same name. We're on our Twitch channel, same name, and I am using our owner's Rumble. Joe Montalto, I want to thank him because he's created this amazing network. We're actually broadcasting out of his house, and he's under, I believe, Jojo Mon on Rumble. So that's how you can join us for the conversation. Let me see. What else do I want to ask you guys? I think I've mentioned everything. Now, this is a new guest for us. I'm very excited that he's going to be on this evening. Then I'm going to read his bio, and then I'm going to say hi to everybody. Our guest's name is Brad Burkholder. And he has written a book called Where the Spirit Led, part of the Paranormal Perspectives series. Now, I know we've had Susan on here. She was part of that series. There's, I believe, 5 books under this, and this is the book that Brad has written to contribute to this. I know Gavin Davies also has written a part about that. I think Carol, I'll have to check the names again, but I know there's at least 5 people. But let me tell you a little bit about Brad. Now, part of his bio, and I think this is important because this is a very intriguing story, you guys. He says, I and others involved are willing to undergo polygraph testing. So Brad is now 71. He's written a poet. I'm going to say an author as well, and retired English professor. He began seeing a trance channel in 1996 because of a problematic relationship. The channeled spirit of Ramoth explained that he had been in painful relationships with this particular woman in at least 2 past lives, where she had been Fanny, Brawne, and Maud Gonne, I believe it is. I know you'll correct me when I'm finished, Brad, if I'm incorrect. And Brad had been her poet suitors. The spirit brought together the channel, 3 other clients, and Brad himself. They all had prominent past lives that had intersected many times in history, such as the American Civil War, William Wallace's insurrection, the Norman invasion, Roland's battle with the Moors, Camelot, the time of Jesus, and the Trojan War. They all learned that they were, sorry, I'm reading this because you wrote it in the first person, so I'm trying to not the first person, Brad. They all learned they were one of 12 such groups, apparently preparing the way for a new age. They were tasked with combating the gray aliens in April 2000, with visiting southern England together later that year, and with combating Satanists also that year. Afterward, they ceased to function as a group but remain friends. And Brad also delayed writing this book until after retirement for fear of losing his career and retirement income. So welcome, Brad. I'm glad to have you here.
I'm happy to be here. I've been looking forward to it.
So have I. And you picked the perfect time because we usually do more Halloween-y, sort of spookier. And I know there's some spooky elements to your book, I think. Definitely.
There are, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, let me say hi to everybody quickly first. We'll say hi. I've got Tina B2248 joined over on Instagram. Welcome. And then I'm going to go right up to the top and say hi to everybody. We'll skip the first comment because we had somebody over on Twitch being naughty. We've got Heidi says hello, Lorilei, and much love from Boulder. And I got my comment. I wanted to let people know we were going to be live. We've got Carfast13 saying hi, everyone. And Sherry Madigan, 5350. Woohoo! I'm on time. Good evening, Lorilei. Good evening. And everybody's saying hi to one another. And then Carfast says, I can relate to the kid on the roller coaster in the intro. Well, I'm glad you can. I think most of us can when we aspect I call all of this the paranormal, what we're going to be talking about tonight. We've got Victoria from Astrolite Paranormal saying hi, Lorilei and Brad. And Victoria's eventually going to be on this show in February, I believe. I'm looking forward to it. Let's see. I'm still going. We've got Patsy Foister 684 here saying hello. And I'm scrolling, guys. Oh, we got Julie Jean Bassett here. I always give Julie Jean a shout out. She's got a beginner animal communication course coming up. I believe, is it in November, Julie, if I remember the date? Also, you guys, she's an incredible animal communicator. She's a mentor of mine. I've taken the beginner animal communication course with her. She's also done a course on animal chakras, which I just took, which was amazing. She's helped me with many of my own animals. Like if you've got a pet that is doing crazy stuff and you're just at your wit's end, Julie is your lady. She's also a pet medium, and she's an incredible shamanic practitioner. I had a life-changing session with her about a year ago. So to talk to her about the animal things, you can get a hold of her on juliejeanbassett.com. And for the shamanic healing, it's whitetailshamanichealing.com. So be sure to check her out. We've got Benno from Oz. 1975 says, good morning, Lorilei and Brad. Yes, because Benno, you are in the future in Australia between you and Mish. I always say you guys are in the future. I know it's Tuesday morning. And look who we have here. I just said his name, Gavin Lee Davies. Hello, Gavin.
Hey, Gavin.
Here. We love Gavin.
Yeah.
Gavin, you guys, is the gentleman who has introduced us to many of the guests I've had on the show, like Brad, that they're incredible authors that they are. And Gavin, I know that you are going to be working independently with authors in the future and be watching his space. He's got all kinds of amazing stuff coming up, you guys. And Gavin is an incredible guy. We've had him on the Angel Rock before. He's over in Wales, but we made it work. I know it was a dark and stormy night that night, but we made it work. Hang on, I don't want to miss anybody. Oh, Heidi's saying, why does YouTube change things up? The font, the way the names are displayed, what is going on? I've been noticing. I don't know what's going on, guys. Nicole Gaspard says, hi, guys. Sharon, happy Halloween. Right back at you, and thank you for sharing. Julie says, beginner animal communication course is, December 6th and 7th. 12 noon to 3 p.m. and it's well worth it, you guys. And I believe, and I know Julie does, everybody is capable of communicating with animals. And then let's see. Oh, Gavin says he loves us both. We love you too. He says I'll be in touch soon. Can't wait. So, Brad, with your patience with all my housekeeping here, I'm so glad to have you here. So
it's great to be here.
So you said, let's start this out in the beginning. So have you always written poetry? Because before we were talking, you said over the last couple of years, you had a change in your life, and it kind of opened the door to that creative spark. And you've written quite a bit of poetry in this book. Have you always written poetry?
I've been a poet all my life. I think I was making rhymes before I knew what poetry was. And I still remember in the first grade finding a little poem about a bear at the back of the little reader we had. And I thought that was the most amazing thing. And so, when I was in high school, I realized that that's what I was in life. I was going to be a poet. Everybody thought that was immensely strange. I remember my girlfriend looked at me so strangely and just shook her head at me. But I'm a lifelong poet. I have taught hundreds of people to write poetry in my college classes, and I actually have 2 master's degrees in writing poetry: a Master of Fine Arts degree and a Master of Arts degree.
Well, wow, that is impressive. So, I know in the U.S. they call it university college, right?
Well,
I know there's community college, and then there's university, which most of my friends are American, and they call it college. Now, I went to university, and we call it university in Canada, and then community college is known as college. So,
okay. To clarify, that there's the idea that everything has to continually get bigger and better.
It doesn't.
I have degrees from 4 different institutions of higher education. 2 of those that called themselves colleges when they gave me diplomas are now universities. One of them that I went to always has been a university, at least as long as I know. And yes, I did start out at a community college. My first 2 years was at a community college, where I ended up having the majority of my teaching career.
Okay.
And it was a great experience. I taught on the university level too, but I preferred the community college level.
I taught too. I developed a course. I got contacted. I was working full time as a community visiting nurse, and I was asked to develop a course in community nursing for nurses, and we call them RPNs now, registered practical nurses. At the time, it was RNA. they were called registered nursing assistants, and then I taught it at the college level. So nothing different. I think the fact that, even I've met the most intriguing people that have not gone past grade 3. It doesn't matter, right?
Oh,
It's
yeah.
who you
Oh, yeah.
are.
Yeah.
And,
Yeah.
So I think that's super cool. I'm just reading here. Heidi, it's another Mandela effect. Maybe it was like this all along. Kidding. Oh, that's a whole different show. We'll have to do the Mandela effect one night on Thursday nights, because Carrie Lynn and I do Beneath the Hollow Moon together. So let's talk about your book. And I forget, Gavin, please forgive me. I know there are books in this series. We've had Susan Plunkett on here. Gavin contributed. You contributed to this paranormal series. But let's talk about this book and go where you want to go with this book.
Okay.
Because this is quite.
It is.
Yes.
It is Where the Spirit Led. It's published by Sixth Books, which has since then been taken over by Simon & Schuster. Where the Spirit Led is basically the story of mostly the events of only a few years around the year 2000 and a couple of years before that, when I was introduced to trance channeling, when as you said, because of a problematic relationship, I was referred to Yvonne, the channel, by a colleague of mine at the college who had received a reading through her. And so when I went, it was like Ramoth had been waiting for me. And
so this is the being, for people listening. Ramoth is who Tina was able to trance channel, because does she go right into a trance when she channels?
Right. Yvonne would sit in a chair. Her client would sit across from her. She would take a few deep breaths, and her eyes would sort of roll back, not in a creepy way, and then they would close, and then Ramoth would start speaking. Ramoth's accent is a little different from Yvonne's. He uses her vocabulary. He cannot speak any foreign languages that Yvonne cannot speak. And I think that's because he uses her mental apparatus.
Yeah.
My understanding is that Ramoth himself does not channel through anyone other than Yvonne, although I have received many messages from Ramoth. Now, it should be noted that after 3 years or so of my being a client of Yvonne's, she and I started dating. We eventually were married for over 20 years. The marriage dissolved, but our friendship certainly hasn't. As a matter of fact, I talked to Yvonne just today, and we help each other out all the time. We're very good friends. But she's an amazing person, a tremendous psychic in her own right. And that she has this ability to channel Ramoth, and she's had, I would say, scores, maybe hundreds of clients over the years. She's backed off a lot now. She and I are both, we're getting a little long in the tooth, and she doesn't seek out new clients anymore the way she once did. She could have been a millionaire if she had wanted to go that route. She didn't. To her credit, she's a very, very honorable person. She never commercialized Ramoth. She would refuse to do that, and she would probably lose her gift if she did. Honestly.
I was just gonna say that, because I don't trance channel, but I can do automatic writing, and it's not the same as going into a trance. I've always been fascinated by channeling, and have watched and listened to many a channel, and everybody does it differently.
Yeah.
And that is the key point, right? When you
Mm-hmm.
come across and you connect with a being, I can already feel this in the way of Ramoth. That's not the purpose of Ramoth coming through and working with Yvonne through her gift, right? And it's to impart that knowledge and that information, and it's not a commodity or something
Right.
to be commercialized.
Precisely.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And you know, I think Yvonne and I we're very kindred spirits on a lot of levels. But you know, I certainly agree with her approach. In that I never encouraged her to try to make more money through Ramoth or anything like that. And I myself have never, you know, you asked me earlier about my career as a poet. I have never promoted myself as a poet.
Mm-hmm.
I don't have books out there. I don't have, you know, if you look up a list of American poets, you won't find my name on it. I have, but I'm almost always a poet. I've been a poet many times in the past. When I wasn't busy, you know, fighting wars, I was usually either a farmer or a poet. And of
Mm-hmm.
course,
I have so.
I have avoided the military in this life,
Mhm.
but I have been a farmer and a poet as well as a college professor.
Well, nothing wrong with that. And the thing is, maybe one day, you know, if you feel that you want to share your words with others, that's great. And however you choose to present them or write them down, right? That's the beauty of the gifts that we're blessed with, is whom and how you may want to share it, right?
Yeah.
And the
Just
fact,
recently,
go ahead.
I'm sorry. Just recently, I've started putting a poem a day on Facebook. If anyone's interested,
Oh,
uh, the,
good for
I
you.
basically one a day. Now that does suggest I've got quite a few poems that I've stockpiled over the years, long and
Hmm.
short, you know, narrative and all other kinds.
Hmm. Well, you know what the beauty in poetry is, and I can't say that I'm blessed with that gift myself, but you know, somebody, and I did take a look at your poem that you'd written down, and it's
Mm-hmm.
beautiful. You really have a way with words, and we're losing the art of poetry. I think I really do, because you know, you think back into even centuries of old, right? The way you would express your love, say, you know, a suitor to a young woman or something, right? I'm just thinking of certain examples, and I
Mm-hmm.
think we're losing that art, and it's unfortunate. It's kind of morphed in a way, and I don't say this disrespectfully in any way. You know, when you hear people that say do rap, and I'm not saying that that's how poetry is, but what I'm saying is that would be the closest that I've ever seen to somebody. And poems don't have to rhyme either. There's many different
Right,
kinds. But what I'm saying
right.
is, you don't see somebody writing those beautiful words down on paper. And I'm so glad that you took that leap of faith and put it on social media today, because it's being lost, is what I'm saying.
Mm-hmm.
There's so much
Mm-hmm.
loss, and there isn't any comparison between rap and the poetry that is written down on paper, and the emotions and the feelings. But that's the closest I've seen to anybody even remotely try to put the words out there, besides maybe lyrics to a song.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And there was a period when I was in my late teens when
Mhm.
I thought I wanted to be a songwriter.
Okay.
But then, you know, one morning, I remember it was a Sunday morning, cold wintertime. I grew up in a farmhouse that was not, you know, the walls weren't really insulated. You know, it was cold on winter mornings, and I remember sitting on the heat duct
Mhm.
reading some poetry of William Wordsworth, which I'd
Oh,
been assigned. I'd been assigned to read it. Uh,
okay.
uh, un, un, I will readily admit I'm not a great fan of William Wordsworth.
Okay.
He's not he's not one of my guys. But um, I just realized then I said, you know, I don't really like what I'm reading,
Mhm.
but it took a whole lot more to write this than it does to write a song lyric. And that was the day that I knew for sure, yeah, I'm not going to try to make a living writing songs. I'm going to I'm going to be a poet and see where that takes me. And where it took me was into college teaching. So I really did, in an indirect way, I made a career out of it.
Yeah. And I like I said, I think it's a dying art. And I like when I read your poem, I felt feelings that's when like I say, poetry wouldn't be the first form of literature I would seek out. But when I read your words, that's what I think is a sign of a good poet. When it brings up emotions within you, when you read these beautifully written words and they flow, and there's a beautiful message with it. And I would say, I can't never tell people what to do, but I would say go for it and publish them, because you're going to find there's going to be a lot of people, I think, that would connect with your words.
Well, I would like that to be true. Yeah. And anyway, that there are enough poems in the book where the spirit led to establish that I'm a poet. Maybe one you like, maybe one you don't like. Maybe a pretty good one, maybe actually a pretty bad one, but a poet nevertheless, and not only that, but a trained poet. One who went through university programs to learn to write verse.
So with this book, because this is an incredible story, and we got to thank Gavin, because Gavin, I tell him this all the time. I say, Gavin, I wish you could teach everybody a course the way he does things, because I never need anything. And you asked me, you're the first person I'm going to tell you, we had a little chat before. You asked me if I'd read the book. I wish I had time to read the book. I saved them all, because I just don't get enough time in a day to read as much. I love to read, but if I read a good book, there might be 3 days that go by that I'm in the book and I just don't let it go. I just don't have that time. And then you asked me about some of the questions that he had sent. So I thank you for that. You're the first person in all the years I've done that has asked me. But there's so much in here. Like when Gavin sent this to me, because he always sends out the package, right? And then says, would you like that? He kind of knows what kind of people I have on my show. As soon as I saw your book, I went, oh, yes. Please, you've got to come on here. So where do you want to start with this story? Like we started with Yvonne, you ended up marrying her, but okay, so let's talk maybe start with a little bit more about Ramoth. Like, so who is Ramoth, and how do you connect with Ramoth and with Yvonne and this group of people that we talked about in your bio?
Okay, I have probably been the most consistent student of Ramoth that Yvonne has had among her clients. Okay. Of course, for over 20 years, I lived with her, and so I had instant access to Ramoth and to some other people. She has, in a far more limited way, she has channeled William Shakespeare, even Ernest Hemingway. And it's interesting because William Shakespeare is important to me. I have no connection to him that I know of, other than that when he was alive, I was also alive in London. I was a child who was very poor and desperate, and he gave me food. Later on, he would give me a play, which maybe we'll talk about later. But
is Ramoth part of your team? Like, he feels very much like, because I say we all have a team when we come in, right? We have guides, we have main guides, we have some that come in, some that come out. Is he like? Do you feel like he's part of your team, if you will?
He's the captain of the team.
That's what I keep feeling that and hearing that so loudly.
Yeah. He's the captain of the team. And when I first went to him and I asked him what he was, he said, "I'm a guide."
I could feel that, like, and that's not written in here, you guys. Like, as we're talking and you've been talking, that's all I kept hearing. I'm part of his team. I'm part of his team.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, at the time, I didn't know that the word guide meant anything in particular. I thought it just meant that I'm like, I'm here. I'm here to give advice.
Mm-hmm.
I have since learned that we are all, what would you call it? Like every one of us is a member of some family of souls that tend to study together, to exist together, to reincarnate together, and in between lives, we are students of a particular guide.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that I'm very, very privileged to have Ramoth as a guide, because the more I learn about him, and I've learned more about him since writing Where the Spirit Led, I realize that he's, if you want to rank spirits somehow in the cosmos, he's a high ranking spirit.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
He kind of feels like Ascended Master to me.
At least that.
Mm-hmm.
He's at least that.
That's a pretty high. That's a pretty
Yeah.
high
Yeah.
place.
Yeah.
When I say that, like we're talking Buddha, we're talking Jesus, Mary Magdalene.
Yes.
That level is what I mean when I say Ascended Master.
I would put him in that level. I would do that. Other people might disagree, but I know him pretty well. I do know this.
Spirit for people listening, though, is we really do get that we are all connected, and and over on the other side, the way I always try and explain it when we look at things with human eyes versus spiritual eyes, and that they would never look at like I'm this high and you're this low. And I know that's not what you're saying. I'm for people listening. It has to do, I believe, with knowledge and wisdom, and the more lives we've lived and the more knowledge we've accrued and much more. Right. That's how I think we begin to become something called an ascended master. So that's what I meant by it.
Yeah. And if I could add something,
Please.
There was a metaphor I always used when teaching creative writing. If it was a fiction class, I called it the writer's path. If it was a poetry class, I called it the poet's path. And what it is it's an equalizer. It's a way of looking at people who are endeavoring to do something without putting them in classes or grades. If someone chooses to be on the poet's path, then they've taken up a path that all poets before them have also walked. Mm-hmm. That older poets who are still alive are still walking. They're the equal of every poet who ever lived, because they've chosen to walk that path. Now, some people are farther down the path. They're more enlightened, if you want to talk in terms of spirituality, or they're more experienced as a poet. The same thing. I mean, it could be an auto mechanic. You could be on the auto mechanic's path. You start out, you're like an apprentice. Somebody who's been doing it for 50 years can listen to an engine and knows exactly what the problem is, and that's experience. But they're both mechanics. Right. One is just more experienced. Now, it is the obligation of that experienced mechanic to reach back and give a hand to the less experienced mechanic. Mm-hmm. It should be the privilege of the less experienced mechanic to be able to reach forward and take help from the more experienced mechanic. They're not competitors, they're colleagues.
I like that.
That's how it is as we travel through time, as we travel away from our creator and down into incarnations and so forth, and eventually back to our creator. We're all on the same path. Sure. So, what was it? I'm sorry. What was the term you used?
Okay, I'm already thinking, because with Ramoth, like you told me before we went live, that you've actually discovered since writing the book that there is a city, didn't you say, named Ramoth? Can you tell us a little about that?
There is. Mm-hmm. I have searched for over 20 years for some sort of historical reference to Ramoth. He told me that he was a philosopher in Greece.
Okay.
He has told me that he was that he knew Jesus of Nazareth, that
Wow.
that they crossed paths, and that Yvonne and I and the other of that group of 5 people were also there. We left Egypt with Moses.
Okay.
Ramoth was there then. And so I believe that we've always, been connected pretty closely with Ramoth, and probably always will be. And I hope to follow him right back to our Maker, and
So
complete
where
his life.
did you discover where you said you just recently discovered that there's actually, is it a city or a town named?
There was, I don't know if it's still there, but there's a place name, and it's mentioned once in the Old Testament, and I am so sorry, I've forgotten what book it's in. But
That's okay.
if you go to a Bible dictionary,
Mhm.
look for it. It's
Okay.
Ramoth hyphen, I believe it's Gilead, Ramoth Gilead. And
Okay.
when I discovered that, I was pretty excited. So I went to Yvonne. I said, "Listen, I've got to talk to Ramoth." So she gave me a reading,
Yeah.
and I asked him about it, and he said that he had been the founder of that city, that he had led a group of people to that location. They founded a city there, and that as he comes forward through Yvonne, he chose that name from his past to identify himself by.
Interesting. So when we're getting into the book here, because you mentioned about aliens, Mary Magdalene, King Arthur, because I'm going to share something very quickly with you. I really resonate back to the time of King Arthur and what have you. And I have the strangest story, which I will try to tell very quickly. I was mentoring a younger gentleman with another group I used to work with a long time ago on Facebook. And he said to me, "I know you." And I said, "Well, of course you know me. We were working together for," he goes, "No." And he claimed, I never ever argue with people when they share stuff with me, because I believe the truth will always reveal itself. And he told me that he was an angel once. Okay, if you were, you were. If you weren't, you weren't. But what he said to me was, "I used to call you Maeve." And immediately I said, "No, my name was Maven." He then told me, and I'm going to get this wrong, especially with you being as fond of William Shakespeare, please forgive me. He said, "Do you remember Lady Titania?" I want to say from, is it Macbeth? I don't think it's Macbeth. What play is that from?
Oh,
Midsummer Night's.
well, I'm not a Shakespeare scholar. I'm a Shakespeare
Oh, good.
fan.
Okay, so I
But
don't feel so bad
but
telling this story.
yeah,
But he
yeah.
said, Lady Titania from Shakespeare, you were her sister. And he said, it had to do with the fairy realm. I've always been very drawn to fairies, the fae, unicorns, Pegasus, you name it. And he said, you had long, black, shimmering hair. He said, you could have been in any hair commercial. He said, you had these incredible silver eyes and you used to wear a crown of black thorns. He said, you weren't evil, but you weren't one to be reckoned with, because if they did, they were going to meet the queen of all you know what. And I said, oh, interesting. And that night, and I haven't drawn in a long time, I sat down and I drew this picture of a Pegasus unicorn. And right away, I knew her name. It was Chloe. And I knew she was not my pet. She was not my familiar. We were two halves of one whole. And we fast forward a couple months later, and I was taking my crystal Reiki attunement. And my mentor at the time had said, meet me online in meditation. I'll know if you're not there. So she went to do my attunement. It was a Friday night. This never happens. I fell asleep. And I woke up right when she was done. I messaged her and I said, oh my God, I fell asleep. And I remember so clearly, she said, there's no space or time. She said, when you have time, listen. 5 days later, it was a Tuesday, and I'm thinking, what am I going to sit on? It was in my previous home, and I just bought this beautiful white unicorn sleeping bag. Sat down on it, decided I was going to sit on that, had my hair all tied back. It was a different color then, and back up like this. I never wore it like that. And I'm listening to her attunement from Friday night. And she's going through it. And as she starts, she says, I see you sitting there. And she goes, you have your hair tied back. You don't usually wear it that way. And it's all at the back, nape of your neck. And she says, I see you sitting on something white and fluffy. And I still have the recording. This is why when you said you'd be willing to take a lie detector, I went, oh, this story's going to be good. Because I have stories like this.
Yeah.
So I'm listening to this, and there's 15 symbols for crystal Reiki. And one of them is a 7-pointed star. And she says in the recording, oh my gosh, I don't know what it is about you with she goes, your higher self with a 7-pointed star takes it, slaps it on your forehead. And I'm seeing you with this long, black, shimmering hair. And you have this crown of like black thorns on. Okay, so she does the whole attunement. I almost came out of the meditation when they heard that. Then she sends me a picture, and she said, I didn't even know I had this. And she said, this reminds me of you. She didn't know about the previous story I just told with the kid I was mentoring. It's a fairy with monarch butterfly wings sitting there. Like, how do things like that happen, right? And I really connect like back to that time with King Arthur and the Fae and what have you, because I believe we've had past lives. So
you are freaking me out right now.
Am I freaking you out?
Listen,
please tell me.
You sound so much like Yvonne.
Do it?
So much like Yvonne. Yvonne was there.
Mm-hmm.
She was a psychic in the court of King Arthur.
Wow.
Yvonne has had a life in the fairy realm.
No way.
Lives in the fairy realm. Yes.
Mm-hmm.
She believes in. I don't have a name for her, but well, actually, I do, but it's not important right now. She believes in unicorns in a way that is strange. I mean, we had a horse once, a big, solid white Shire, a huge horse.
Oh, I would have loved it.
And she insisted that she remembered when that horse was a unicorn.
Oh my God! I'm going to have to meet Yvonne.
Yeah, you should. Everyone should meet Yvonne. She's wonderful. But yeah. Everything you're saying about Camelot sounds it's very much in tune with what I know.
I've always been drawn to it. And like I have a fairy garden every year. And we're in a newer house now. We left our old house because that's where our haunting happened. And I'm writing a book about it. But people from all over stop to come and talk to us. Like it's drawn the whole neighborhood together. And I love fairies, unicorns, all of that stuff back to that age. Like Merlin, I am so drawn to. All of those things. So, and I work with two ladies. One is a channeler, not a trance channeler, but a channeler. And I call her the Crystal Wizardress, Leanne. And I mention her always because we're working on a course together. She's actually the Crystal Architect. And the other lady is Debbie Anderson. And I recently got from Spirit that because Debbie's husband actually does past and future life regressions, like hypnosis. And I asked her, do you think he could bring us together as a group online and do a mass hypnosis? Because I said, I want to know when was the last time we were together with past lives? And Debbie says, I know, because Debbie's a medium and a psychic. And that story goes back to exactly that time period. Yeah. So there's a lot to do with it. So tell me about your life. Like was Ramoth able to tell you, like, were Yvonne and you together in that lifetime? Because you mentioned that there's a couple lifetimes, right?
Yeah. Many, I know many past lives. But at the time of King Arthur, there are 5 people in a group that Ramoth put together: Yvonne, myself, two friends of mine, John and Ken, and
Okay.
Leslie, who is a very dear friend of Yvonne's.
Mm-hmm.
All five of us were in Camelot.
Oh my gosh.
Two of us were Knights of the Round Table.
Oh, wow.
One of us was a priest. The three of us were brothers.
Oh, wow.
We had a half brother who was Lancelot.
Okay. Well, I kept hearing that name. I kept hearing it. I'm going, there's got to be, I didn't say anything. I was just listening to you.
Lancelot, yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, Lancelot's story is pretty tragic, but triumphal in the end too. And it's in Where the Spirit Led. There's a chapter devoted to the Camelot story as I have learned it from Ramoth, which is very different from the Arthurian stories that that people read.
I'd say trust Ramoth.
Yeah, I do too. And you might not like this, but Ramoth's take on Merlin is not positive. We would be living in a better world today had Merlin not lived.
But he must have had a purpose. Must have had a purpose to be there, right?
Yeah.
Well,
I'm not going to get into that. I'm not going to try to explain the ways of God.
Okay,
because I'm not qualified.
Purpose isn't always good, right?
But I can tell you this.
Mm-hmm.
Arthur, myself, John, Ken, Yvonne, we all died one day, all in the same day. Camelot fell like a brick, and it was due to the machinations of Merlin.
I would believe that.
And everything would be different today. Christianity would be different today. I imagine the world would be more evolved today had that event not occurred, because Arthur had good intentions. He was going to take over the church as it existed at the time. He was going to take it back to the way it should have been, the way we would have to assume that Jesus meant for it to be. And that's because of Mary Magdalene, which is another story. Mary Magdalene and Joseph of Arimathea traveled to what is now southern England. They ended up in the present day town of Glastonbury. Beautiful, very mystical, spiritual little city. And the five of us, those five people I mentioned, we went there. I mean, we spent some time in southern England during the summer of the year 2000. We were sent there by Ramoth.
Glastonbury is considered to be one of the chakras of the earth.
Oh yeah. And so for good reason. Mary Magdalene, she taught people there, and she taught them exactly what Jesus wanted taught, because she knew him as well as any person ever knew him. And so that message was passed down generation to generation until he got to Arthur. And but meanwhile, over on the European continent, what's now the Roman Catholic Church was getting founded, was creating its doctrine, was doing what churches do, what all organizations do. But as it did that, it was changing the truth that Mary Magdalene taught, which included reincarnation, by the way. So in the end, these early Christians were called Christines. That's why I call myself a Christine rather than a Christian. I gave up my membership in the United Methodist Church decades ago because it just wasn't doing anything for me. And as about the time I left high school, I had in the back of my mind that I was going to find God, but I sure couldn't find him in church. because for me, that's not where he was.
I'm smiling because I consider myself a retired Catholic.
Yeah. Okay.
Completely retired.
Well, you know, the first day I walked in to talk with Yvonne, and I said, it seemed as if Ramoth had been waiting for me. That very day, he started talking to me about Jesus. And I was, and told me actually a little later than that, you know, he made me come back a few times, but told me that I had been a leper who was healed by Jesus.
Oh, beautiful.
Which I think has something to do with all of the other things that I am and have been. Because I don't think you get touched by Jesus without it requiring something from you forever after that. And you know, why wouldn't you want it to be that way? So I'm big on Jesus. I'm not big on religion. Because religion is always organization, and it's always rules and dogma, and that has
fear.
nothing to. It has so little to do with God
And fear.
and fear. Yeah, and none of that has to do with God. I mean, people talk about being a God-fearing Christian. Why would you fear the most positive thing in the universe? Why would anyone fear God? That's the one thing we don't have to fear. Maybe the only thing we don't have to fear.
I always used to say, if God is our Father, never mind that God is everywhere. And I'm not mocking anybody listening. Whatever works for you, whatever road brings you closer to love and being a good person, you keep doing it. But for me, if God is our Father and God is everywhere, I've never needed to go to a special building to speak to my Father.
No.
Mm-hmm.
No.
I hear
you are the special building. You yourself are the special building.
Yes. Yeah. And I say, you know what? When you lead with love and you lead with trying, I mean, we're human, so we make mistakes, but trying to be in service to others. And I'm not saying being service to self is bad. People have free will and can choose whatever they want. But when I'm working with people, if you can lead with love and you can lead with, you know, working on things, because all of us hang on to things, all of us get a lot of pain, but trying to work on that and heal that. You know, the mind is a powerful thing. Our words, our thoughts, and our emotions are so powerful. You know, we need to be careful with those. And when we make a mistake, it's okay. Own up to it. Try to make it right. But you can't go wrong with leading with love. You just can't. You can't.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I want to ask you a little bit too, because part of your story involves the gray aliens and demons. Like I told you, I have had experience with demons, not by choice. When I started in this field, the partner I'm with, I've been with him almost as long as I was my first marriage, and we were just friends. And I said to him, I only want to do angel cards because they're positive and I only want to work with the light. And I still remember this as clear as if he had said it to me 10 minutes ago. And he said, Laura, in order for you to do this kind of work, you're going to have to know both and know the difference. And let me tell you the story we went through. If I hadn't lived it, I wouldn't have believed it in a million years. And involves a dream of something, man showing up, trying to tempt me, telling me his name, how to spell it, told me he was a demon. And I don't usually remember all my dreams, but trying to tempt me with ridiculous things like wealth and fame. And it's not radio friendly, where I told it where to go, and kept asking this man, who are you? Told me the name, told me what he was, told me how to spell it, told me his animal form. And in the dream, I called on Archangel Michael. Can't describe the colors, royal blue, silver, and white. I woke up shaking, in a sweat, and crying, which I do not do. And all heck surely did break loose in my house after that. Mm-hmm. So what was your experience as a group that you've written about in this book, I think, dealing with the grays and dealing with...
Okay. It started out with the grays.
Okay.
Ramoth told me the first time I had a session with Yvonne, he told me about aliens. He said, there were two types of aliens he wanted me to know about. He wanted me to know about the Pleiadians, who are God-oriented, they're love and light, they're never harmful. And then there were the Greys. And he said, now, here's the problem with the Greys. God did not create the Greys. The Greys are a biological, artificial intelligence created by a race that no longer exists because that biological, artificial intelligence destroyed their makers.
Can I throw in here very quickly that that's almost like a warning for the future of where humanity is going?
Absolutely. No kidding. Yeah. Well, and so here's what the Greys were up to. Their planet, the conditions on their planet were becoming so warm that they couldn't survive there. Mm-hmm. So they traveled into space and they landed in various places, one of them being Earth. Mm-hmm. Ramoth told me, and this was probably 25 years ago, that the Greys had been around for about 150 years on mm-hmm. Earth. So that would mean that around 1850 or so, they arrived on Earth. And their ultimate plan was to take over the planet for themselves and destroy us. He told me that their real plan was to kill us off with viruses. But they ran into a problem in that their females became barren. They could no longer reproduce.
Yeah, I've heard that. Yep. Mm-hmm.
Right. So once the females were no longer useful for reproductive purposes, they killed all of them.
And that makes sense because whenever you're seen or heard of a Grey, right, it looks more androgynous than anything.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Well, then they began experimenting with human beings. And Ramoth told me early on that I had met a Grey hybrid, had an interaction with a female Grey hybrid. Took me forever to figure out who she was. And then once it came to me, I thought, why didn't I think that immediately? Because this was a woman who had no nose. I mean, she just had this little cute little bump that came out right above her mouth. And she was kind of, I don't remember her having unusually strange
like not
eyes.
Like the gray eyes.
Yeah, not the elongated eyes, but she actually was. I mean, she was kind of cute. I mean, she was not a beautiful woman, but as a creature, she was kind of cute. You know, if she'd been a cartoon figure. In fact, a lot of cartoon figures look kind of like she did. Just her face was just flat between her eyes, but a little nose that came out, and. So other than that, she was small. But other than that, I thought that the poor thing had, some kind of maybe a birth defect or something that had caused her to look odd. Mm-hmm. It never occurred to me that she wasn't entirely human, but apparently she wasn't. But anyway, the Greys were abducting people. And I knew people they abducted. I knew people they put implants into. They tried to abduct me on 3 different occasions that I knew of. Ramoth had forewarned me, and I was able to resist them when that happened. So the 5 of us, especially the 3 men in my group, spent months building what we called an ark.
Okay.
It was a wooden structure.
Mm-hmm.
Had a pyramid on top. Its top was a pyramid with mirrors. It was a mirrored pyramid that was on top of a wooden structure. We worked on it. We had, and it was, it wasn't a big thing. Maybe 2 feet across, something like that, and about that deep, with a little pyramid on top. And every Wednesday night, we would meet at Ken's house and work on this ark. John was a carpenter. Ken and I were, we were guys who could swing a hammer. We knew how to saw wood and stuff like that, but to call us carpenters would be highly complimentary. But as we tried to build this thing, just the oddest frustrations occurred. Like John had a professional level table saw that had always functioned perfectly. But as we tried to use it, the adjustments on it would change. And we never knew how that happened. We never knew how it happened. One night, now Ken lived out in the country. One night we were working in his basement garage. One night when we had done all we could do that night, we walked out to the back of his house and we were in darkness, like if you were deep inside a cave. There was no light. There was no light. And then Leslie, another person in our group, on a night, during that, not that same night, but during that period, she walked outside and discovered the same thing. It was so dark that, Ken went back in the house, got a flashlight, and led John and me to our cars because we literally could not see to walk across his driveway. And so we had that experience. Another night, there was actually a UFO in the sky making right angle turns. This was back in the year either 1999 or 2000. There weren't drones back then. A helicopter was the closest thing that could make a move like that. But we could tell this wasn't a helicopter. But it would stop and hover. It would move. It would turn at a right angle. Well, we said, let's concentrate God's white light on this. And we did, and it stopped. It never moved again. Or at least while we watched it, it didn't move again. Later, when we had the ark completed, we were supposed to use it against the Greys. We got together for a meeting. All 5 of us got together for a meeting, and Yvonne began channeling an entity that she had seen before, who called himself Athor and claimed to be the leader of the Greys. And his intention was
to heard that name before. I've heard that name.
Yeah. And he looked like almost like a caricature of what you think a Grey would look like. He had a sash that went across his shoulder, and down to the opposite hip, and that sort of thing. It looked like some kind of parody of an earthly military uniform or something. But he had come to her earlier. She had a child, and he wanted to take that child from her. Well,
you're not the first I have heard that from.
Yeah.
Top of the fact, I got to say to you, now Joe Montaldo, who owns this network, we have 2 names, because in the beginning, when he started 25 years ago, people didn't want to hear UFO paranormal radio network. So he named it United Public Radio Network. It's known as UPRN. And he has done a 20+ year study, because with his research, he has ICAR, International Center for Alien Research. He's been doing this study of people with Rh negative blood, green eyes, and red hair, because that set of genetic traits did not exist 70,000 years ago in the human genetic makeup. So where did it come from? With people who have had a lot of UFO experiences or abduction periods, whatever. Now, the interesting thing is I don't have those attributes, but my mother has all three. And I have missing time with blinking, losing an hour and a half, and ending up miles away with my car from where I was. Hand to God. So when I read your story and you're going, I'm willing to take a lie detector, it's like, oh, I got to talk to Brad, because when you have these experiences, people don't believe them, do they?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I have relatives who think I must be the greatest fiction writer who ever lived, but I'm not. I'm not good enough to have made up where the spirit led.
So what happened with Athor then, with your group? I'm sorry, I interjected.
Okay, well, we were going to do battle with him, and we had the ark. We had.
Was there copper in that ark?
Copper?
Yeah.
Yes, there was.
I'm sorry, but I keep hearing stuff from you as I'm talking. I'm psychic, but every time, like, I didn't ask you any of this. This wasn't written in your write-up, but I keep hearing copper. There had to be copper.
There was a copper tube that went down from the top of the pyramid down into the inside. Yeah,
as you were describing this, because I'm seeing it and I'm hearing it. Sorry, I'm getting very excited because you're confirming everything I keep picking up from you.
Okay. There was a quartz point on top of the copper tube.
Mm-hmm.
The inside of the ark was lined with leather.
Okay.
And each of us put things into the ark. So we had to put in something that we had made.
Okay.
In my case, I had been working through Yvonne, and also in the year before that, I had been working far more directly, even with William Shakespeare. I actually channeled a play from him. It's called Shakespeare's Latest Play. It's unpublished, but if there's anybody out there who wants to read it, you email me and I'll send it to you.
I want to read it.
I'll send it to you. I will send it to you as a Word file.
Thank you.
And the entire thing is written in iambic pentameter and Shakespearean English.
Okay.
It's well. Anyway.
So you all had to see. I could talk to you for hours here.
Oh yeah, I mean, we could talk for a week, and we still wouldn't get through all of it.
No. So you all had to make something, because what I am hearing from the structure you made, what was most important, like you said, put a piece of yourselves in there, but I'm hearing piezoelectric charge from the crystal that you used with the copper. And because you guys together are so powerful, it wasn't about size. This is all about energy. But please tell me the story. But this is what this is feeling like.
Now there was another one of us too.
Mm-hmm.
Who was in spirit.
Oh, even better.
And I remember once Ken, John, and I went on a vision quest. Ramoth suggested that we do that. And we went out in the dark. We actually built a little campfire.
Yep.
And we stood there talking. And I think I was the one who realized that 3 people ought to be standing sort of like in an equilateral triangle as the points of it. We weren't. We were standing as 3 points of a square. There was a 4th person there. Now he came forward as William Wallace.
Ooh.
But William Wallace was the reincarnation of Lancelot.
Interesting.
He did not want to come forward as Lancelot because Lancelot had betrayed the rest of us in Camelot.
Okay.
So he came forward as William Wallace.
Mm-hmm.
William. Now, we made the ark out of 4 kinds of wood.
Okay.
There was oak, maple, walnut, and dogwood.
Ooh.
I chose the dogwood. John chose walnut. Ken chose oak. William wanted maple. Okay, so and we also had to make staffs. I had a dogwood staff. John had a walnut staff, and the three of us worked equally together to make William's staff out of maple. Those staffs had a crystal in the end, and they had a leather handle. They were big. They were like 5 feet long and thick. At least wrist size piece of wood. Using the arc and the staffs under Yvonne's direction, because she was standing next to us, getting the information from Ramoth and telling us what to do. And Leslie held William's staff for him.
Okay.
And the aliens were somewhere out of sight, but we'd been told that they might actually land. We might see them, but we didn't see them. However, they were up there. I mean, there's no question about it. If you'd been there, you would have known they were there. And using the arc, we shot God's white light out that copper tube through the crystal, and it destroyed Athor.
Interesting.
Now, the aliens operate a whole lot like a bee colony.
I was, I was picking that up, like from Star Trek with the Borg. Right when you start talking about this is what it felt like, the Borg, like one hive mind, right?
Yeah. And once Athor was gone, the rest of the aliens died because they couldn't take care of themselves. He was their brain. And they were they were like drones, and so they buzzed around until they died of malnutrition, I suppose. And then I think it was up to the governments of the world who had been working secretly with them to dispose of their bodies. But what
about the demons too? Because I have a picture of that thing in my house. I had 4 main entities, and I can describe. I usually don't. Well, I can tell you right down to what he looked like. He was a guy with hair slicked back below his ears, had a short beard and mustache and goatee. I could describe him perfectly, what he was wearing, the whole bit.
I never physically saw a demon. Although I think Yvonne has seen them. Yvonne has seen them.
Smell terrible.
Really?
Oh.
I lived alone in a little house, very, very, very modest little house, and at times they were in my house, but I was always able to clear them out with just demanding that in the name of God and light that they be gone. And I had a wand I'd made about that long with a crystal in the end, and it had a copper tube and leather around it. And so I was able to
Nothing got rid of these. And I was talking to, I had Michelle DeRoche on, who was on our episode on Paranormal Survivor, like I said at the beginning. And when I was talking more about it, she said, I think you had an infestation. And we did. And we ended up leaving the house. I lost everything. And I still don't look back in anger. I don't look back. I am glad to be rid of it. It threw my partner 15 feet across the kitchen. I documented it. That's how I know Jason Bland, that I mentioned to you at the beginning of the show, from Paranormal Suit. I met him years ago, and this became like a 20-hour-a-day job for me, trying to find out, why is this here? Why are we going through this? And how to get rid of it. It was terrible. It was like the whole street was affected. I am not kidding. It is. If I hadn't lived this, honestly, Brad, I wouldn't have believed it in a million years. And I can clear a house. I help people clear houses, whatever. This was one of the craziest stories ever.
Very powerful demon. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I know. I couldn't find, I'd never heard this name that I've been given and the spelling. I tried to find
you don't want to say it aloud.
I never do. And it's not
No.
because I'm afraid. You do not give it energy. But I will tell you, I was helping somebody 5 years after the fact. I had that dream. There on the page, the name, the spelling, the animal form, everything I'd been told in that dream, right there on a piece of paper.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Apparently one of the first 40 created, wherever they come from, however you want to believe what the story of their origin is, it was powerful.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Very powerful. Mm-hmm. So you guys were dealing with this, and you're saying you had a wand that you created?
Yeah. And you realize I didn't do any of this kind of stuff before I met Ramoth. I mean, he taught me this. And I remember one morning I got out of bed, and for some reason there was a bumblebee on the floor. Stepped on the bumblebee, it stung me on the bottom of the foot, hurt all the way up to my knee. Oh. I took that wand and I just pointed it and just sort of circled it around the bee sting. And within a couple minutes, all the pain was gone. And now the swelling persisted, but the swelling was never sore. It went away after 3 or 4 days, but all of the pain was gone and it never came back.
Oh, I believe that. Like I do energy healing.
Back. Yeah. I had another very interesting thing happen. We lived in Florida from 2020 to 2023. And I got stung on the side of the face by a wasp or something. Mm-hmm. But it was just after I'd done an interesting thing. I mean, not that it's unusual or but early on, I asked Ramoth, I said, well, what can I do for Jesus? And he said, when you pray or when you think about it, send him white light to help him in his work. Well, I'd been out in the yard, and for some reason, I just happened to think about it, and I sent white light to Jesus to help him in his work. Mm-hmm. And then a minute or two later, I got stung on the side of the face by a wasp. And it hurt for about 10 seconds, and then the pain went away. And there was never any swelling, which I thought was very interesting. I believe.
Fine message received. Thank you.
I think that's what it was. Yeah, I do think that. I think that's what it was. Yeah.
So when you say you had to, because I also noticed too that you say there is it 12 other groups of people like yourselves or doing this?
There are, and I don't think initially we knew about each other. Mm-hmm. There's a group that I'm told there are 2 groups in Sedona, Arizona.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
Is that right? New Mexico or Arizona? Anyway, Sedona
would sound right.
That there is one around Stonehenge.
Okay.
There's one around the pyramids.
Makes sense.
There is one somewhere around like Sudan or Ethiopia.
Okay.
There's one in the Yucatan Peninsula of Mexico. There's one in Casadega, Florida.
Interesting.
Which is a spiritual community, by the way. It's called a spirit camp. There's one in South America. There are 2 in Russia. There's one in Cambodia. And then we were in Roanoke, Virginia. Now, I later found out I didn't even. This is one of only 2 things that I have learned that weren't exactly true when I wrote Where the Spirit Led. I believe there were 12 groups. I have since found out that there were 13 groups, and that actually we were the 13th group. Those 12 groups, apparently each one corresponded to one of the 12 apostles.
I was going to just say that.
Okay, now you tell me who was in charge of our group.
A human being or
somebody from the time of the 12 apostles.
Jesus.
No.
Mary Magdalene?
That's good, but no.
I'm hearing Peter. That's what I'm hearing.
Yeah, but Peter's one of the 12. Actually, it was John the Baptist. We were the John the Baptist group.
Okay. But John the Baptist, was he considered an apostle?
I don't think anybody has ever called him an apostle, but he and Jesus
were actually part. They were homies.
They were cousins. They were cousins. They were cousins, and they were brought up together.
Because I'm hearing Peter is what I was hearing. No, that I was dying to ask you that. That's why I brought that up, because that's what that made me think of, was Jesus and the 12 apostles, right? Mm. And I'm going to share something else that's going to blow your mind.
12 apostles, 12 notes in the chromatic scale.
Well, I'm going to share
12
something
tribes
else
of Israel. Yeah, I don't know. The number 12 means something.
Numbers are 3, 7. Numbers, there's powerful significance in many numbers.
Yeah. All numbers have their powers, but I think 3, 7, and 12 are particularly
okay. The 3 important. Ladies I get together with, the triangle, if you will. Mm-hmm. And we connect with spirit. We connect with a former scientist who used to be alive, or so they claim. We have no idea why we get together. We get names. We get all kinds of things. Sometimes we're called on to do energy work, but we also know we are not alone. We don't know how many other groups there are, but we know there are many around the world. I just thought I'd share that.
Now, that is interesting. Yeah. Who knows how many organizations that don't even understand that they are organizations actually exist, because we exist. We're organized on the spiritual realm, mm-hmm. and we just know we have this idea to do something. We don't realize that it's being channeled to us. But
it sounds like
you said a scientist.
Mm-hmm.
Are you at liberty to name that scientist?
I'll tell you after the show.
Okay, because I've got an idea too, and it just came to me, and I wondered. But
I've never asked his permission. I'm sure he wouldn't mind, but
okay,
there'll be a lot of people that will hear it and go, "Sure, you are," but never been led astray. We get together at least a couple times a month.
That's how. I have people who say, well, how do you know that Ramoth is real? How do you know that he knows all this stuff? And I know it because I've been his student for 30 years and he's never steered me wrong.
I was just going to say, never steered you wrong, right?
Never That's the same thing with us.
Never steered us wrong. Yeah.
And there have been times when he told me that there was something I should do, but I didn't do it. And
then you find out later
I suffered complications. I suffered karma for not doing it.
That's kind of like working with spirit, though, right? And Ramoth, I would consider part of the collective of spirit.
Oh, absolutely.
They never tell you what to do or what you must do. There is a loving suggestion. You may want to blah, blah, blah. Yeah. And when you don't, you find out, I should have listened.
Oh, yeah.
Hi, Mish. Nice to see you here. Mish is joining us from the future too in Australia. Glad to see you. No, but okay, so you guys got together and you've written this story within this book. And I know there's so much more to it, you guys. And I'm sorry we're getting off on tangents here, but I honestly could talk to Brad for hours about this stuff because there's so much to the story that I know you have in the book. You got together as a group, you completed what you needed to, you're still all very good friends, but you kind of disbanded, you said, right?
Yeah, we were called the Star.
Okay,
Ramoth
that makes
referred
sense.
to us as a star group, and he called us the Star, and there were 5 points, and we were a 5-pointed star. Some of the other groups were much larger. Some of those other 12 groups had a lot of people in them. We were one of the smaller groups.
You didn't need to because you had exactly what you needed with the 5 of you.
Yeah, we did. And you know, I think about how strange it is that that all of us were together at the time of Moses. All of us were together at the time of Jesus. All of us were together in Camelot. All of us were involved in the Trojan War. John and I know, were with Charlemagne at a battle that Charlemagne himself was not there, but John and I were, and we were all killed. And it has been, what would you say, recorded in a long French poem called the Song of Roland.
Okay. It's interesting as a soul group that you guys keep reincarnating. It seems like at very important historical times. And now, as you were talking about the grace, and I said to you, this might be a word to the wise with humanity, with where we are going.
Absolutely
It
is.
seems like
Because we are headed, we're headed right there.
Absolutely.
But we're going to get an intervention, and it's coming soon.
Can we talk a bit about it? Because I think people would love to hear that.
Yeah. You know, I refer to it as the second coming. But I don't anticipate it the way
some may.
The way a more churchy person would anticipate it. Because when he came before, who were the people who were most skeptical? They were the rabbis. They were the priests. They were the only people he got mad at ever. You know, Jesus did not care for them, and he called them vipers. You know, and of course, who killed him? They did. So Ramoth tells me when he comes back, he won't come in as a child. He'll just be there. And he won't be tied to one place and one time. He can be several places at the same time. He will go among the poor people, those who are victimized, just as he did before. He will eventually scare the daylights out of the ruling class, who will retreat to their bunkers under mountains and so forth. And
will he put we'll say a cog in the wheel of their plan for Project Blue Book, for example?
Well, I
because it almost feels like they know that this may happen. The reason I say with Project Blue Book, right? And I know we got to be careful on YouTube here, but the plan is, right? Like we've got this AI one, whatever it may be. I don't know if that's the ship that it's going to be, but they're going to pretend, right? That
that thing that's coming, that object
Jesus
that's
coming in the sky, Buddha's coming in the sky, everywhere. You must unite as one, and like we're under this fake alien invasion.
I'm not too concerned about that. But I think there will be a change in consciousness, and I think that what happened to Yvonne the other people and me is that we got to experience that change in consciousness a few years before other people will.
Mm-hmm.
Those whom he collects, I think will gain spiritual abilities similar to what you seem to possess, and similar to what Yvonne possesses, similar to what I have possessed at times, but most of the time I don't have. I think it will be a time of greater understanding and peace, compassion, friendship. I don't think that a new church as such will rise out of it. I think that a new sense of spirituality will rise out of it.
And you know what? I have to agree with you, because I've often said, and I like to use analogies when I'm teaching, but you take some fictional plane crash that's landed on this deserted island, and you've got a group of people that survive. Most people will be looking to someone to take the lead and follow, right? Instead of people recognizing that we all have the ability to think, to lead, if you will, with love. But where I'm going with this is to think like there isn't even a box, not outside the box, but you won't need to be if we are united in this spirituality, right? Because we'll be connected where I think we all should be connected, which is spiritually. So there will be no need to have life the way it is right now. Just my thoughts, right? Like people are always looking for a leader, someone to follow, someone to put on a pedestal, and you won't have to do that. I'm hoping. Maybe I'm wrong. I'm hoping that that's where humanity is laid. There won't be any more need for money, or everybody will be able to eat. Everybody will get along. There will be peace, right? I try to envision that, because I think it is coming.
Yeah, it needs to come. It needs to come, because we're headed toward annihilation now. If things continue down the path they're going down, but the thing is, we're not alone in the universe. We're not alone on Earth.
That's what I say too.
we do have help, and it will come. And things will be better in the future than they are now.
That's what I used to tell my youngest son, because even though he had severe autism, he could read and write, and he was pretty bright in certain areas, and he was always worried about those type of things. And I used to tell him, the Van Allen belt was there, so it'll keep you safe. And then I used to tell him also that nothing's going to happen to our planet, because if you think and there's multiple universes, I get this, but we're right smack in the middle of this galaxy system. And the way Spirit showed me it is, it's like, and I hear this from Spirit too, is humans are a young race. So the picture I see, and I say it with no disrespect to anybody, but we are like a young group of children here, and we don't want to be handing, I don't know, blowtorches to one another, for lack of a better word, right? Eventually, somebody's going to have to come in and take those tools away. You're not ready for those kind of tools, and we don't need you getting rid of your planet because of silliness, right? And I'm saying this way, so for you too, is why I'm saying this. But you see where I'm going with this, and I believe that too.
Yeah, and I think you're right on target. If I could, before we leave, if I could bring up one other thing,
please do.
I've gone through 10 or more podcasts similar to this. This is a very good one, by the way.
Thank you.
But nobody has asked me about Genesis, because that's an important part of where the Spirit led. Near the end, there's a chapter in which Ramoth has explained to me what is meant by the 7 days of creation.
Oh, wow.
And I would I don't know that we have time actually to go through it all.
You just might have to come back. I'm booking into
I'd,
March
I'd be
next.
happy to do that. I'd be happy to do it. But I would recommend that, if for no other reason, people, if you buy this book and read it.
Please do.
What the way Ramoth explains it, it makes so much sense. It is not. It doesn't disagree with science. It validates science, and science validates it. That first page of Genesis is like a time capsule that could never have been understood until the present day. But the explanation for it is right there in where the Spirit led. And I'll be happy to come back and talk with you about it sometime.
I could talk to you for hours. So please tell people, how can they get a hold of you, your email, where to buy the books? And next time, because I said next year when I have you back on, that we can talk even deeper, because people will have time to read your book.
Okay. Well, if I think where the Spirit led is more important than I am. So let's start with that. It is published by Sixth Books. It's readily available on platforms like Amazon.
Mm-hmm.
And it's in bookstores, but it's not in all bookstores. But most of the books I buy these days, I buy online, and so the easiest way to get it is look for it on Amazon and purchase it.
It's there, because I looked you up today.
Oh yeah, it's there. Yeah, mm-hmm. It's there. So there's that. I'm available. I have a website, bradburkholder.com, but I'm probably a little more active these days just on Facebook. And on Facebook, I'm basically, all I've been doing lately is putting a poem out every day. And so I think if you become my friend, you'll get a poem a day, and you can decide whether I'm a poet or not. If you read the book, you'll find out about half a dozen poets I have learned that I was in the past. All of them considered good poets, and I won't say that I have all the talent they had, but there's a little holdover. So I think you could say that I probably write somewhat in the tradition of the last two poets I've been. And you probably encountered them in high school. Well, maybe not. They don't teach poetry in high school anymore. But yeah, I remember my parents knew that those poets had existed when I told them that Ramoth said I had been those two guys. They didn't know when they lived or anything about them, just that they were poets. But yeah.
Well, you guys, I strongly encourage you, because we barely scratched the surface, but there's so much in this book. And like I say, I am going to, as long as Brad's open to it, I'm booking into March next year, but I'd love to have you back on. Hopefully over Christmas, I'll get a chance to read the book myself, and we can go further into our discussion. I loved having you here. Thank you so much.
One more thing.
Okay.
I am at Burkholder Brad 6 at gmail.com. That's my email. I'll be, if anyone has questions, if you email me, I will respond. Like I said, if you want to see that play that I wrote with the help of Shakespeare, let me know and I'll send it to you.
Wonderful. Yes, I already said I definitely want to read it. Hi, Vet Girl. Sorry, guys, we had an in-depth conversation. Usually we answer more questions. I saw some of your questions here. Don't worry, Brad's going to come. Like I said, we'll have him on again in March, and we'll continue the discussion. I want to remind you guys, I think Carrie Lynn and I, this Thursday on Beneath the Hollow Moon, 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, I believe we're talking about, it's called Gate Night, we used to call it, or Devil's Night, the night before Halloween, what's involved with all the mischievousness and everything else. Please tune in. Friday, 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, Halloween, Spirit Switchboard. Carrie Lynn Shellhorn and I are hosting the UPRN host Halloween party. All the hosts are invited. I know Jeffrey Pritchett, that comes up at 8 p.m. Eastern till 10 p.m. Eastern, has given up his time slot. So we're going to have quite the party for you guys. So tune in. Carrie Lynn's got all kinds of cool stuff planned for it. We're going to have a lot of fun. Next week, I haven't confirmed with my guests next week whether they'll be coming or not. If they're not here, no worries, because you guys know I'll be here, and either I will have someone join me, or very rarely do I get to do a show on my own, but I love when I do. So I want to thank you again, Brad. I'm also going to ask you guys to please stay tuned. The Light Gate with Preston Dennett and Dolly Saffron is coming up next. And you guys ever want to get a hold of me? Get a hold of me on facebook.com/theangelrock. I do psychic and mediumship reading. I do energy healing, crystal Reiki, working with your chakras and your aura. I also am a spiritual teacher and mentor. I am working on my first course with Leanne, who I mentioned, Leanne Clark, the crystal architect. The way we're going, it looks like it's going to probably be out in the new year, but it's going to be a lot of fun. Anyways, I love you guys all. I will see you on Thursday, and stay tuned for Dolly and Preston next. Thanks, Brad. Please hang on one sec while we end things, everyone.